Talk of illegal immigration often seems to come down to only two choices.
Yeah, throw them out or let them stay, build a wall or let it be. But the Fox 5i team has the story of one victim of illegal immigration who came to realize the question is far more complicated. Fox 5i team reporter Randy Travis is here now with that. Randy?
Yeah, Rosenstein, we told you before about people in this country illegally who steal someone's identity so they can qualify for a job. More than 2 million people are doing that right now, according to the IRS. Well, here's what happened to one. When we last saw Juan Carlos Estrada Hernandez, the Mexican native stood in a Douglas County courtroom hoping a judge would let him out of jail until trial. At least one person here was clearly no fan.
It's ridiculous to give him bond.
You can understand David Omlar's reluctance. It took him a while to track down Hernandez. For years, IRS statements had confused the Villa Rica resident, insisting he had extra income he didn't claim. Last year, David lost his job and filed for unemployment benefits, but the state turned him down. Why? Well, according to their records, Omlar was still working at one of the largest construction firms in the state. That came as news to this tax accountant.
I'm wondering how I'm going to put food on the table, and the Department of Labor is telling me that I'm working.
Villa Rica police and Cobb County authorities eventually arrested Hernandez. Only then did Omlar learn from Social Security where else his number had been used. With 21 employers he also didn't know, including restaurants, staffing agencies, and other construction companies, in places where clearly more than one person had been pretending to be him. Suddenly, Omlar found himself a prime example of a disturbing crime: ID theft from undocumented immigrants.
He's committed a felony. He's using someone else's identity. They should be deported.
If someone's here illegally and wants to work, typically they have to steal someone's Social Security number so the boss can take out taxes. But a recent Inspector General report scolded the IRS, saying the government is doing a poor job in letting ID theft victims know, and these individuals will continue to be victimized. Instead, the IRS collects an estimated $11 billion each year from people who are here illegally but will never qualify for benefits like Social Security. Even if the culprits are eventually caught, it's not before sometimes becoming productive members of their community. A popular police officer in Anchorage lost his job after authorities realized he was actually here illegally, using an American's name and Social Security number. Rafael Mora Lopez would serve time in federal prison. It's unclear whether he was eventually deported to Mexico.
He's lived in the U.S. almost half of his life.
In the case of David Omlar's identity thief, Hernandez's wife and 3 American-born children showed up for his bond hearing last year. His lawyer pointed out Hernandez had been a steady worker for 10 years and avoided any other legal trouble. The judge took a chance and granted him bond.
If he shows back up, I'll be surprised. I'll really be surprised.
So when the time came this year for trial, David showed up early at the Douglas County Courthouse.
Juan Estrada Hernandez.
And so did the man who for 10 years pretended to be him.
How do you wish to plead? Guilty.
Yes, it's been a long time coming.
Hernandez told the court he bought David's Social Security number at a flea market for a few $100s.
He was under the understanding when he started using it that it belonged to somebody that was deceased and it was never actually going to hurt somebody.
You should presume it's very likely you could be deported.
Before all this, Hernandez asked Omlar for a favor. Even if they didn't share the same language, could they meet face to face so he could explain why they shared the same name? A private visit inside the courthouse followed. For this bitter victim of ID theft, the gesture would make a sudden difference.
He was a nice guy and a real person, and he didn't know I was a real person. He apologized a few times. He shook my hand. He offered, and he was very apologetic and a nice guy.
Hernandez must serve 10 years probation and must pay Omlar $5,000 for the trouble he caused. His attorney wouldn't say how Hernandez will earn a living now that he can't pretend to be a real citizen. What happens to his children if he's deported? What happens if he stays?
He wants to stay in the United States and he wants to be a good citizen. And I commend him for that.
Questions that once seemed so simple to this ID theft victim, now suddenly hazy, complicated, a puzzle with no easy solution.
Immigrants have legal children in the United States, but they're not legal themselves. what do you do? I think that something needs to be done with immigration. I'm not sure exactly what that is.
The IRS says it's trying to do a better job now warning taxpayers when there's evidence someone else is using their personal information to file taxes. And the attorney for Mr. Hernandez provided us a statement from his client, which we put on our website. But basically it just says, I made a mistake and I only have myself to blame. So he's taking responsibility for what he did to David Omar.
Wow, you get so much perspective once you've heard from both sides. But I'm wondering, with David Omar, what happens now as far as, is he still sorting his way through this identity theft?
It's still a mess for him, Sine. He says that the IRS provides a PIN code for him each year that he has to use now to file his taxes. He's got to check with the Department of Labor each year to make sure that no one else is using his number, because remember that Mr. Hernandez was not the only person who did that. There were perhaps as many as 20 other people who stole his identity and they were using it for work. So his number and his name are still out there somewhere. He's just not sure how it happened, how it got out.
Not easy to rein it back in.
No. And the other number that stood out for me was that 11 billion that these undocumented people who've stolen identities are actually paying with no expectation of ever receiving anything.
And some of the cynics out there are saying, well, maybe that's why the IRS is not moving as quickly as they could to let people like David Omar know that someone's using his Social Security number. But they say they're going to try to speed things up.
All right. Randy, thanks.
Thank you.